Hello everyone, this is Kwa, and I believe we're past 5 right now, so I'm going to go ahead and get the session started. And to start, so we're going to be talking about SharePoint branding today, and this is the little tips and tricks that I use over the last few years. And yeah, we're going to go and review that together. Like I said in the chat, if you have any questions, feedback, or anything that you would like to specifically review for the demo, please let me know, and I make sure that I take that into consideration. Okay, we're not that many on this webinar, so make sure that we can have some time to really personalize this session. Okay, cool. So I'm going to get started. My name is Juan. For those of you who attended, I organized those webinar series around Office 365. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a SharePoint consulting agency called NIFTIT, and we do organize a bit of SharePoint related event in Brooklyn, in Hong Kong, in New York, and in Vietnam too. You'll find my contact information if you want to reach out to me. If you have any further questions or anything pop into your mind, feel free to go ahead and drop me a line. Oops. All right, about our consulting group, like we do SharePoint, Office 365. We have about 3 offices in Vietnam, US, and Hong Kong, and we mainly focus on development. So we're development agencies. We're about 35 right now. We're opening soon an office in Paris, 10 different nationalities, 100 clients, and so on. All right, so just a quick introduction, like for the people that are on the line that are not necessarily familiar with SharePoint, is that a typical SharePoint environment, when you do install SharePoint on an on-premises environment or create a new SharePoint site via the Office 365 platform, will pretty much look like this. And when we go ahead and do consulting work, most of the sites that we encounter across our client scope was of that nature. They basically left this unbranded and just started using the SharePoint features. So it's definitely good. I mean, like they're using the feature that SharePoint is known for, like the document management system, the search capabilities. But at the same time, if you want to get like real user adoption and across multiple sets of people that have more or less of a technical savvy background, you might want to spend a little bit of time on the branding aspect, UI, UX of the SharePoint platform, so that it will encourage people to use it more, to access it more, and get the information that they need or collaborate on the platform itself. And so I'm going to show you today how we can get started on that front. With very little investment, very little time, you can get something that looks quite okay, and obviously improve, spending more time. And I'll probably do an advanced session if anyone is interested into that. And so if you do spend a little bit of time into your SharePoint solution, what you might come up with is, branded portals that resemble example that I'm showing right now, that will be a lot more engaging to the end user. So today we're going to take a look at SharePoint branding. I'm going to talk a little bit about the environment because it's quite important to know. There's a lot of different flavors in terms of what is available right now on the market still for SharePoint. The different methodologies, there's 2, and different tools and libraries that I've been using. The new feature that came out called Design Manager, and that was back in 2013, JS Link, and then we jump into a demo. So the audience for this specific session is definitely going to be power user, front-end dev, or SharePoint developers. Especially during the demo, I'm going to show a little bit of the codes that goes behind. Nothing crazy again, but if you have like a little bit of front-end, that means HTML and CSS notion, that will definitely help out during the demo phase. But overall, if you're a power user, like you know, and you have a front-end developer or like a team of developer handy, you could translate information to them and get them this information so that they can get the job done. All right. So when we talk about SharePoint, there's you know, different flavor, different installment that you can see. And people are still using, you know, like 2007, 2010 version. Also, they're deprecated, and you know, all the way to 2016, and obviously the SharePoint Online via the Office 365 platform. And so there's definitely two big areas when it comes to SharePoint environment in the context of branding. There's going to be a pre-2013 and a post-2013 era. And the main differences between those two is after the 2013 version, like it's really the 2013 version that marked up the quite few changes. The first one was the removal of heavy table markup. There is still some, you can see that in the list and the views of the document libraries, for example. There are still some table markup, but it's definitely a lot less heavy than what it used to be on the 2007 and 2010 version. Also, we're basically no longer touching that thing called XSLT, and that was like a XSL format for like transformation that was used quite extensively to create views in the pre-2013 era of SharePoint. And so that is no longer the case after that. You can create design and then import design using your web editor. They introduced the design manager in the 2013 version. You have things like client-side improvement, so image rendition. For example, there's features and settings that you can adjust in order to have multiple sizes for a particular image within the SharePoint 2013 version, minimal download strategies to enable for like mobile usage and better performances overall. The REST API, that's for developers. The REST API was greatly improved on the 2013 version and up, and then overall the methodology. So what is the SharePoint page model? So we're going to dive into some terms that we need to define in order to be on the same page. So the first thing that you're going to take a look at is that to render a page, we're going to use three main assets. One is the master page, and the master page is basically the Chrome or the outer layout that will compose a rendered page. And typically, what is within a master page will be any type of logo, navigation, footer that are commonly used on any other pages. So if you have repeated stuff that needs to appear on, 99% of the pages, that's probably going to be sitting on the master page. Then once you have a master page, you can insert or include within it different type of page layouts. And so page layouts are another assets available for like branding solutions, and they represent the composition of the content. So you could have like a home page layout, a department page layout, a contact us form page layout, specific team page layout, so that each layout is basically reusable, but specific to the team or the purpose of the page. And finally, the outermost layout is going to be called the pages. And every time that you create a new pages within SharePoint, in the context of a branding solution using publishing services, you are going to create a new instance that will use the master page that you selected and the page layout that you selected. And that will create the page. The page only render the content. That's referred as the content. And so those three elements combined create the rendered page or the view of the page, and that's what is available to you via the front end when you're opening a SharePoint site through the browser. So in terms of methodology, there was two ways of doing things. Before 2013, so on the 2007 and 2010 version of SharePoint, we had to create a design by the designer team, for example, and then after that, what will happen is that they will give that to a development team, and most likely front-end developers will go ahead and do the whole fanciness of the page and add the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. From there, there was quite a wall between the front-end assets, the HTML or the static assets of a page, to translate that into the SharePoint environment. And the problem is that it was a convoluted process, quite extensive, quite complicated, and some of the developers had to rebuild at some point most of the work that was done by the front-end developers to notably create those master pages and page layout. And then after that, they will change the page to translate the assets that is provided to them. And then after that, create new components that are SharePoint specific to add that to the solution. Now, and post 2013, it's a smooth process. It's a less painful process because there's definitely less barrier between each of the steps. And so we're starting with the same step, right? Like we still need design, and this is going to be your designers creating that or something that you purchase online. And then after that, you're still going to have to create, the HTML unless it's provided to you. But here, the big step is that there is a translation engine within SharePoint that will allow you to convert those HTML assets into something that is recognizable to the SharePoint platform. And this is done via the Design Manager platform, and I will be showing that into the demo. Adding controls to take quite a bit less times because they're already provided to you on the SharePoint front. And there's instruction, and I'm going to show you how to do that, but SharePoint does provide instruction on how to add those controls to the master page and page layout. So if you're a developer, that should make total sense. If you're a power user, reading the instructions that are provided to you or following the demo that I'm going to be doing should help you get to a pretty advanced step onto your branding solution. So let's take a look at the tools and libraries that are available to us. So in terms of tools now, when we're talking about creating branding solution, you can use Visual Studio and create SharePoint Sandbox solution. And that will work for pretty much any instance of SharePoint, whether it's 2010, 13, 16, or even the Office 365. Sandbox solution, as long as there's no farm features activated, so anything that is just branding, like CSS, images, front-end JavaScript, will work fine. So you could create a solution with Visual Studio, and that's for mainly developers. You could use SharePoint Designer to edit and create some of the branding that I will be showing, or you could also use a text editor or your favorite IDE and then create an HTML solution and load it up to the platform. In terms of libraries, I mean, this can go wild because basically there's no limit to what can be done on the SharePoint platform. So if you remember the first slide when we took a look at a typical SharePoint intranet site, like how people live it as when they install it, the main reason is because they probably think that they don't have the time or the resources available to create something along the line of a branding solution. But the reality is that since it's a web platform, there's pretty much no limit in what you can do. So including libraries like Bootstrap or using Angular or Backbone or Knockout.js or any fancy JavaScript front-end libraries out there to enhance the view of your solution is definitely possible. In terms of SharePoint tools, we're going to take a look at the Design Manager today and something called JS Link. All right. So in terms of the Design Manager, what it allows you to do is access and upload assets to the branding solution. So we're going to be able to upload HTML components or HTML files using the Design Manager to translate that into recognizable assets for SharePoint. We're going to be able to use the snippet gallery from the Design Manager, and that's features from the Design Manager itself. We're going to be able to create packages. So once you have your solution ready, you're going to be able to package that. And if you have another site collection, if you have another need or another instance of a SharePoint site, you're going to be able to package that and move it from environment to environment without any issues. You have access to the device channels, so basically allowing you to control like which device can access which branding of your solution. And then there is something called the display template that allows you to modify views within SharePoint. So if you're talking about list views, search query web part views, you're going to be able to manipulate those views using display template. And to make a note on JS Link, which I think it's a really neat solution. It's JavaScript based. It allows you to really create quickly something that could take a little bit more development or using some SharePoint REST API to basically build. Here we're going to leverage the already existing view and power of SharePoint list, but just appending a little bit of JavaScript so that it can render better. And so I will be demoing that if you have the time and if it's something that you are interested into diving into. All right, so the next step, we're going to jump into the demo. But before we get there, I'm just going to take 1 minute to see if there's any comments or any questions so far. All right, seems like we're all on the same page, so that's good. So I'm going to jump into the demo then. All right, so for the demo, I'm going to use an Office 365 SharePoint site that I have created. And on that site, in order to run the demo, you need to turn on 2 features. One at the site collection level called the server SharePoint Server Publishing Infrastructure. So you need to activate that, because if you created a team site, it probably won't have that activated from the get-go. And the other feature that you need to activate once you do the site collection feature is the site feature itself called the SharePoint Publishing Features. Where is it? SharePoint Server Publishing, right here. So what those 2 features allow you to do is that you're going to be able to access the Design Manager. You're going to be able to access master pages, which is going to be quite important into our demo. And right here, you can see from the site settings, we have access to the Design Manager, to the master page, to the page layout, etc., etc. Just to give you an idea of like, well, this is a brand new site. I'm just going to go back to the root right here and show you, well, this is very typical of a SharePoint newly created environment. So the options for branding, beside the change the look, the theme, the compose look, that is out of the box available for you, quite limited, to be honest. But I mean, if it's something that you're looking for, it's just as simple as like clicking here and selecting the style that you want. There's not that many of them, but we're going to do something a little bit better. What we will do is create a new master page and home page layout today to display something that looks something like this right here. So we're going to assume for this demo that I am like a hospital or a doctor cabinet, and I need to create like an internet portal homepage for my authorized patient to access and get some information about us. All right. So the way I got this design and HTML, I mean, it's I literally went into Google and typed free HTML template, and I found this site right here that give us free HTML and design assets. So all I did was like select the one that I wanted and then downloading it. And there's thousands of templates available across like hundreds of sites. So you could get there. If you need another design, that's definitely up to you. Like you have to work with your internal team, your branding team, and get them to provide you that and get someone to create the HTML. But I'm going to assume that it is already provided to me. All I did was download it. So I have it on my downloads right here. Download free website templates. And what I have too is that I extracted it on my desktop, and I have, as you can see, the HTML and all the front-end assets needed. Okay, so where do we go from there? We're going to go into the design manager right here, and it's going to ask me, like there's a welcome page. I'm going to walk you through the 8 different steps right here. There's a welcome page that allows you to import a completed design package. We have none because we haven't created one yet, but that's where you would go if you wanted to import an already existing one. Manage the device channel. I'm not necessarily going to talk about it for this demo unless you want me to dive into it, but it's basically, again, to allow you to control like from whatever device or browser loading into your SharePoint site, how is going to be the experience, right? And we're going to jump directly into the upload design file. So the upload design file is basically just a page or tab that tells you, well, you have to create a network map location to go to this specific location and upload all of your HTML assets. Okay, so 2 ways to do that. The easy way, and that worked out fine on Windows 10, which is the current operating system that I'm running, was to go into my computer right here and then add a network location, go next, choose a network location, and paste this link right here. And once I did that, I clicked next, and basically it created that network location right here that I can double click now and have access to. That's the easy way. It worked out fine on my computer, but I've known to have worked on other versions of the operating system that sometimes this trick doesn't work. So the way to do that, if you can't make the network map location work, is to use SharePoint Designer right here. Open the site and go to the exact same location under all files right here and catalogs and master page right here. Basically navigating to the same location that they're telling us. So whether it's from here, and you can see all those folders and files right here, or whether it's from the network map location, you're landing into the same place. And what we want to do is upload everything into this location. So what I'm going to do is go back to the asset that I have been provided for me free and downloaded, and just do a simple drag and drop right here. So notes before anyone jump and say anything. Typically though, you would group all of the site assets or like the JavaScript, CSS, images into a single folder so that it looks a little bit cleaner, right? But for the sake of doing a demo on the 30 minutes for the day, I'm just going to drag and drop. But technically, you should try to regroup everything and change out the links and just to make it cleaner, right? So while it's moving those items, which could take a bit of time, we're already going to go to the next step of the design manager, which is editing the master page. So we want to create the Chrome, we want to create the common layout that we're going to use across a solution. And so once you click on this step right here, it's going to tell you like, well, you can create a new one, or you can convert an HTML file to a SharePoint master page. And this is exactly what we want to do. So I'm going to click here. And then if the load happens, I should see my index.html. That's the file that, again, was downloaded, was provided to me for free, and that I'm just going to select and insert right here. Okay, so once that is done, you have to wait a little bit so you see the screen just refresh. And I'm going to go into my master page right here and refresh this. And you should see right here that SharePoint created a copy of my HTML file, but it renamed it with the extension .master. So basically, it did the translation work, or at least part of it, for us already. So if we take a look at that, once again, you can use your editor right here. So I'm using this Notepad++, but you can also access it through the SharePoint Designer, which I'm going to do so that way we have a little bit of colored coding. So right here, the index.master, I'm going to open that. Technically, we don't have to change anything out of it. You shouldn't have to modify anything on that file, but I'm just going to show you the difference. What it inserted is basically creating all those different SharePoint tags right here for us. So this have done part of the translation work for us. So you see that it converted like my images into SharePoint tags right here. There's some security trim control, and all of the rest, everything that is kind of like static, will stay the same than my HTML file. And then right here, it created some placeholder for me, etc. So again, we don't have to modify anything from it. I just wanted to show you that you have SharePoint taking a lot of the work for you out of the box. So I'm going to close that. So now we have our master page. Can we go ahead and use it? Yeah. It's not necessarily going to be the fully dynamic page that we want yet, but it's definitely going to give us a preview of what we have inserted into SharePoint already. So I'm going to go back to my site settings. I'm going to go into master page. And if I scroll, okay, so I need to check it in and check it out so that way it's recognized. So I'm going to go here, check out the file, and check in the file right here. All right. So that way it's recognized by the system. And right here you can see that index is now available. So I'm going to use index as my site master page. So not sure if you're familiar with site master page and system master page. The main difference, site master page will be used for pages, publishing pages only. And system master page is any pages that is available when you do control site settings, control site content. Those are using in the background the system master page. So we don't necessarily want to change that. Actually, it's not really best practices because a lot of them might break if you do that. So I will just leave it as default, but the publishing page, what is front facing for the audience, is the index page. I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, cool. And so to test our new master page, what we need to do is go ahead and go to the site content and create a new page. Under pages right here, I'm going to go ahead and create a new article page, and I'm going to call that welcome. And I'm going to use this page layout out of the box already. Okay, so I'm going to hit create. It's going to create the page, and now if I navigate to it, it should use our new master page right here. Cool. So there are some things that you may adjust based of your assets. So for example, you know, like SharePoint is going to throw in some padding and some additional content right here. So just make sure that you adjust that. It's usually very quick fixes to make that happen, but you can see that in a 5-minute time frame, we already have something that is quite nice. All right. So the next step is we don't want this static navigation. We don't necessarily want the logo to be static too. We might want to control that with modules and features available in SharePoint. So this is where we're going to use the snippet, and we're going to replace anything that is static in our code with a SharePoint snippet that will allow us to control what elements on the page are dynamic. So I'm going to start with the logo of the site. And so to do that, we go back to our design manager. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to go to site settings and hit design manager. And what we want to do is go to the display tab, the master page right here, and navigate to our created master page right here. What I want to do in that case is access the snippet gallery. So if you give me a second, I forgot how to access it there. Should be a link right here. Let me go ahead and change this view. And then we are going to modify this view right here, just so that I happen to see everything. So the name, the link to the document, title. All right, right here. So that's a little bit better. So we're going to look for our index page. Index that master right here. So once you click on the name right here, you're going to be able to see the preview, which I've shown you earlier. But what is really interesting for us is the snippet right here. So it's kind of hidden. It's on the upper right of your preview. Once you do that, it's going to give you access to different snippets. And those are like SharePoint default elements that you can control with the site settings. So you're going to have things like the top navigation, the search box, the site title, the site logo, etc. So, like I said, what we want to change is the site logo. We want to be able to control that dynamically and not necessarily have it as an image just pasted there. So I'm going to click on site logo, and right here under HTML snippet, it's already going to generate for me the code that I just need to copy and paste. So I'm just going to select that. You have access to some of the options available for this particular snippet, but I'm going to leave it as default. And what I'm going to do via SharePoint Designer or via my text editor is to go back to that index.html file and replace the image with this snippet. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to use SharePoint Designer. I could have used my text editor too. And open the HTML. Once again, we don't want to touch the master page. We just want to edit the HTML element. And I'm going to go where it say image logo right here, right? And I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to replace it with the snippet because I want to control that image. I'm going to go ahead and save. Go back to the master page right here, and just to make sure that everything is pushed out and published properly, I'm going to check out and check back in so that I can publish a major version. And that will, it's kind of like making sure that you clear the cache, just to make sure that you have the latest and greatest. Now, if I go back into my welcome page that I've created, you're going to notice that we're no longer using this image, but instead we are using the default SharePoint image right here. And so where this image come from, like I said, any snippet element is a default site settings that can be modified from the admin panel. So here, if I want to change the logo, I'm going to go right here and upload a new image. So I can choose whatever image I want. In this case, probably just use the same. There's no image here. Yeah, there's no longer image here. Let me download something. So let's say that I want to use this again as the logo. So I'm going to save that, put it on my desktop, and now load it back into the system. All right. Okay, so now it's changing it in the system master page. So you can see that we have the new logo here. But what is the most important is that now on my welcome page, which is sitting at pages, welcome. Now the new logo is changed. So this is great, and it applies for pretty much anything in the snippet gallery, is that you're going to be able to control via the site settings any of the information displayed on the page. So I'm going to do one more example. Like let's say that we want to replace this navigation right here. There is a snippet for the top navigation. So I'm just going to click on that. Let it generate a new code. Go to Control C and then go again into my index.html. Look for that part of the code where it's basically the navigation. So it's right here. And replace it with the code that was provided to me. Save that. To replace. And again, a full check-in, check-out just to make sure that I'm refreshing the changes. It basically force the translation and make it available to the public pages. And back to the welcome page. Now it's going to replace my navigation with something that I can actually edit. This, if you're not familiar, this is just the top navigation, so it's available via site settings navigation. And then if I use something like a structural navigation, right here I'm going to be able to add, things like welcome. then a link maybe, apartment 1, then a link, but I'm not going to put anything. Click OK. So now our welcome page is suddenly dynamic. You can add the links right here. Okay. So this is how you do that for the master page. Let me check out on how we're doing on time. So 15 minutes. I want to give perhaps 5 minutes for Q&A. So I'm going to jump back into the device manager and we're going to go a little faster towards the end of the demo. What I've done for the master page, we have to do an extra step to actually do it for the page layout. The page layout is basically the interior of the page. It's anything below the top navigation and anything above the footer area. And so the process will be pretty much the same, is that you create a page layout template in HTML, you upload it into SharePoint, let it do its magic, and then after that you snip it again to append whatever you want to be dynamic. In this case, most likely web path zone, where you will be able to add web paths as needed, right? Publish and apply design. Well, this is assuming that you're doing everything in the doc. I usually take step, I control the work in between. So it's not necessarily something that you need to worry about, but I will do a series of tests on the development environment, making sure everything is working correctly. And then after that, publish the changes into a production environment just to make sure that everything is working. Again, the last step is basically to create a design package. So that allows you to package this particular solution that you have created for this site. So here is my doctor solution. Not very involved, but we'll only put like 30 minutes worth of work, and I'm going to go ahead and create that. So that means that if I were to work on a development environment right here, I package that, I make sure that everything is okay, and every master page and page layout is working fine. Export the package, and then after that, I will go ahead into the production environment and push the design package into the import. All right, so that recap the new design manager. Now, I'm going to do a quick, do I have the time? Yeah. A quick view of what we can do with JSLink, because I think it's pretty cool too. So let's go back to our site right here, and I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new list, custom list that contains, maybe like bookmark information. So I'm going to create that list and call that bookmark. And in this specific list right here, I'm going to change and add a few columns so that we can add a hyperlink and maybe a status of this link. So I'm going to go ahead and click on settings right here. You have your columns right here. So I'm going to create 2 columns, one called status of the link, status right here. It's going to be a choice. So the link is working, pending, or how you call it, inactive. Okay, inactive is good. So that's one of the columns that I'm going to add right here, and I'm going to add the URL right here, and this is going to be, I'm going to use a single line of text for this one. Okay, cool. So this has been created. Again, nothing crazy, but we're going to populate that with some information. So, okay, this is good that we land on this screen. JSLink mainly work on the classic SharePoint view. So if you're using the new experience, which is the one that you have per default, you won't necessarily be able to inject JSLink. To the best of my knowledge, I'm not sure if we can do that on the new experience. But if you need to control the view itself and have a lot more control over that, you need to go back to the classic SharePoint view. And so you do that by clicking right here. And then once you do that, we're going to go ahead and edit right here and add some information. So let's say like a link to Google. It's walking, and here's the address. And why not a link to Microsoft? It's pending review or whatever, and then Microsoft.com, and then a link to doctors, which is the site that we're doing right now. And this one I'm going to say, well, it's not really ready for production, so it's inactive right here. And I'm just going to copy and paste this link. All right, so we have our data now. What if we wanted to do more? What if we wanted to change the colors right here of those fields? What if we wanted to maybe append a button rather than displaying the links right here? What you need to do in that case is use JSLink. And to use JSLink, again, you need script edit, text editor or SharePoint Designer will do fine. And you need to create a JavaScript file. So I'm going to go ahead and create it right here. Again, not necessarily the best location, but for the sake of the 4 minutes that I have left, I'm just going to put it right here. And I'm going to call that JSLink to make it simple. Okay. I'm going to edit in advanced mode. So you have to be familiar with JavaScript in order to do that. And I already have a little code that can be used right here. So where did I grab this code? Well, actually, if you go into Google, and I can't even spell that right here. And if you type SharePoint JSLink, there is actually a well-documented code library that is available to you that allows you to do that. So I've run into a few samples and I compiled the code. I'll be able to send that out if you're interested in seeing it. But basically, it's a giant function that allows you to control the rendering of each item. So we have a status column, and I'm going to change its view using a specific JavaScript function. And then what we have is a URL column, and I'm going to change that by modifying another function. So for the status, for example, let's say that in the case that it said, what was it, approved, yeah. Then what we'll do is that we'll return the current name or the current item. Oh, what we do is that we'll return a button. So that we'll return a button right here. Href. Here, and that will say this is approved. Here, like that. And so I'm going to run that for like all the other cases right here. So one was pending. Add colors. I could add buttons and starting with some CSS. So green example. Very simple. Again, probably need a little bit of cleanup, but that will do for here. Pending will be orange. Okay. This is pending. And then inactive, if the case is inactive. Then what I will do is set this is inactive and put it in red. Alright, this is good. And then again, I'm not going to look for the file name. What I need to do is return the status. So I'm going to do status complex current item, and I'm going to look for the column status right here. This is what I'm going to change. Okay, where do we go from there? Now we just need to grab the location of this specific file and then go back to our list. Where is it? Right here. Edit the web part. So I need to go and edit the page, edit the web part. And under miscellaneous right here, you're going to have the option right here to add a JS link. So I'm going to do that, but because we need a relative position, there's actually a trick. You have to remove the web address right here of the root site collection and then change that with site right here. Okay. Once it's done, I'm going to apply. And basically, you're seeing that pending inactive status. I'm going to publish this. It should take into consideration my changes. One of the things that you need to do is clear the caches every time that you change something in the JS link too. It's not going to pick it up. And then it was not approved but working. You can use regular development methods. I'm just going to do a quick check right here, just to make sure that I retrieve the things right. And here, delete again the cache, just to make sure that I'm refreshing the right thing. So it's in site webinar. Oh, I forgot to. Not pointing to the right location on the JS link. Sorry about that. So we need to go back right here. I went a little too quick. So yeah, we need to remove webinar too, because that's not needed. HTML is not defined. Stop editing. I'm going to go ahead and remove any code to any other functions, so that if we don't edit them, they might run into some issue. Right here. Okay. Again, I think this JS link deserves a full session for itself, but we'll try to. All right, cool. So right here we have change based on the statuses, like the colors. We could have done multiple things with it, like change the labeling, etc., etc. What is cool about JSLink is that because we're just changing the data itself within the view, or you could change the row, you have the ability to use already pre-existing features from SharePoint List, which is like sorting capabilities right here, or filtering capabilities. You don't have to rebuild that if you want to build something a little bit more custom. So quick way to create like things like, you know, like reports view right here, like completions and togglers and things like that. Anything that is front end, JSLink will be a perfect solution for that, because pretty easy to do if you have a low level in JavaScript, and also, again, keeping pretty much anything that is out of the box from SharePoint intact, so you don't have to rebuild it. Right? It even works on chain, on search and stuff like that. Anyway, we're about time right now. I wish I had finished 9 minutes earlier, but I'm going to leave the floor for any questions if needed. I'm done with the demo. I'm going to thank everyone for joining today. If there's any question, again, feel free to type them in. I will spend another 10 minutes on the call if you have the time and if you want answers. If not, please feel free to email me. You have my direct line on the slide. We'll be sharing the slide in the next few days. The recording will also be available if you want to grab that up. Again, thank you, everyone. And now I'm just going to wait for and see if there's any questions.